without further ado, let me turn the floor over to Gustavo Gonzalez. Mr. Gonzalez, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and I think it's very timely, this briefing. I'm just coming back from a field mission to areas affected by the Typhoon Rai, or Typhoon Odette, as we know it.
Hold on, your audio seems to have cut out. You might need to start again.
Yes. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me, Farah? Hello?
Hold on.
We can hear
I
you
think
outside.
your audio has stopped out.
Can you
1 second, please. BCSS, can you restore his audio link?
His audio is fine, sir. We
Oh,
can hear
okay.
just fine. Thank you.
Is it fine now? Hello?
Yes, sir. You're fine, sir. Thank you.
Okay, great. Excellent.
Great.
No, I think what I was saying is very, very timely, this briefing. I'm coming back from a field mission to areas affected by the Typhoon Rai, or Typhoon Odette, as we know it in the Philippines. Is the Caragan region. And this visit is enough to appreciate the serious impact of the typhoon on infrastructure, on houses, on livelihood. We can conclude as a result of this mission that Rai has been devastating. What I saw in my visit is roads covered with debris, electricity networks down, hundreds of houses without roof, and of course the impact of people. You can see people along the border of the road between Butuan and Surigao desperately asking for help, and they are asking for emergency shelter, drinking water, food, and for their livelihoods. We have to consider that this crisis is happening in the midst of the pandemic. And in my discussion with personnel from the Department of Health, so the government is rather concerned by the fact that the typhoon is compromising hard-won gains in the fighting against COVID-19, particularly in the vaccination. Humanitarian access and communications constraints that we have made very difficult to get a comprehensive analysis of the situation. So we are confronted to a situation where we cannot access the islands, we cannot communicate with the local authorities. So we are not surprised that perhaps in the coming days, the figures that we are using, they will change, and they will increase. What is interesting is that, contrary to the predictions, Rai intensified from a tropical storm to a super typhoon within hours. And I think that this is a lessons learned in terms of the impact of climate change. So we were, all of us, surprised. This typhoon took place in an unexpected area. It's not the traditional area where we have the trajectory of the typhoons, and the way that evolved in some way affected our anticipatory actions. Let me just share with you the latest in terms of figures. As today, we have 3 million of people in need of assistance. Amongst them, we have around 1 million children. In terms of casualties, so far, based on data provided by the government, we have at least 177 people injured, 275. We have to consider that these reduced numbers of casualties is due to the evacuation operation. This is something that, of course, by the fact that the Philippines is always exposed to this type of shocks, so they have a very well-developed system for the evacuations. We have a total of around 6,000 barangays. Barangay are neighborhood villages affected by the typhoon. A total of 631,000 people displaced, and half of them in evacuation centers. By the fact that this happened in a region where we can say the local authorities, they don't have an experience as in the north of the Philippines. These evacuation centers, they don't have, let's say, all the resources and means to host people, which is a problem is in terms of providing immediate relief. We have around 200,000 of houses damaged, and of course the serious impact on the economy, the local economy. Estimation made by the government, 23 hectares of agriculture affected, and of course fisher folks very much affected. The government is leading the response. The government is leading the response. They have deployed their teams, and they have established in areas, the most critical areas, emergency operation centers. They are scaling up the national and local authorities' response. And we are working very closely with the government. I just had the opportunity to be in touch with the Secretary of National Defense, who is the chair of the National Commission, and the Secretary of Foreign Affairs, to ensure that we complement and we support government efforts. Let me just conclude by announcing that tomorrow at 9 a.m. Manila time, the United Nations will be launching the humanitarian needs and priority plan. This is based on the information that we have just gathered in these first 7 days after the typhoon, an active deployment of the humanitarian community that allow us today in just this short period of time to come up with an integrated response. This is in support of ongoing efforts conducted by the government. So tomorrow we'll be launching at the local level with the international community represented here in Manila. The ask, the financial ask, is $106.5 million. And of course, there is a strong life-saving and protection focus. We are targeting at least 530,000 people in the worst affected areas in Caraga and Eastern Visayas. This is as a result of coordination with the government. And of course, we have the standards clusters there related to camp coordination, early recovery, education, restore access to education in safe and secure learning environment, emergency shelter. Shelter is going to be one of the big portion of this humanitarian relief. Food security, certainly, we will complement ongoing efforts conducted by the government. Health, logistic will be one of the challenges that we have here, as I mentioned, in terms of humanitarian access and communication. And of course, wash, access to drinking water, sanitation facilities. And also we're thinking on the reinforcement of our capacity of coordination support to the government. We have, I've been in touch also with the international community. There is a momentum for support, demonstration of solidarity. I was in touch also with the World Bank, the Asian Development Bank. They're already in discussion with the government to start thinking about the recovery process. I think that now the challenge is that all of this announcement and solidarity is rapidly translated into concrete actions. I must confess that in my discussion with people at the field, immediately they had the traumatic memories of Haiyan. This is not like Haiyan. Fortunately, I think that despite all the constraints, the government has the system, a capacity, but at the same time, the system is overwhelmed. Serious constraints in terms of budget, and as a result of the response to the COVID-19 crisis. So this is the moment of solidarity, action, support. So we hope that tomorrow, in the presentation of the humanitarian needs and priority plan, we will have the opportunity, the international community will have the opportunity to materialize this expression of solidarity. I would like to stop here if I may, and of course I remain available for questions and clarifications. Thank you, Farah.
Thanks very much for your presentation, Mr. Gonzalez. I believe I have a question for you from Pam Falk.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. It's Pamela Falk from CBS News, and we all appreciate the briefing. In terms of the aid effort and what you expect to hear at this announcement tomorrow, do you think the resources are enough? And are drones or other technology being used as WFP has used it before to identify these areas? Part of the death toll, we're told, may rise a lot because people haven't reached the areas. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have a first indicator of support. It was just announced, and I was not aware even of this announcement from the Emergency Relief Coordinator. $12 million. $12 million is important. It's not the $106 million that we need, but I think it's a good indicator from the international community. This fund is coming from the Central Emergency Response Facility that is composed of a wide range of humanitarian partners. This is very welcome. And what is interesting and what I expect is that this is in some way raising the bar. In my discussion with some donors during the trip, we will have tomorrow, we will have certainly announcement, and we will initiate immediately an active resource mobilization campaign. I would like to emphasize the fact that this is happening at the end of the year with all of these budgetary constraints and by the fact that we have a crisis within the crisis. So, but I think that we started very well with this announcement from the SURF. In terms of communication, what is on a positive note is WFP is piloting at the global level a system where they position a multi-function track that ensures satellite communication, and at the same time they have the possibility of decentralized communications using systems of motorcycles and also drones. We are testing that. I think that when I was in Surigao, one of the tracks was already installed. The problems that we are facing is the topography, the landscape of the Philippines. We have islands and islands and islands, and then we're relying on other means of transportation. But it's very interesting. This morning when I was leaving Butuan, the head of WFP in Manila was already there in action. And the idea is to start to continue the deployment of these tracks. So yeah, so I think that we expect in the coming days these communications problem will be resolved. Over to you.
I would just want to add, Mr. Gonzalez, that your videos are very helpful. So is on Twitter. So as many as you can share, please do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Ray Bushefra, you have a question?
Yeah, Farhan, I'm sorry, I have a question for you regarding Libya. Do you have any idea if the Security Council will meet soon on Libya? Thank you.
There's nothing scheduled so far. Of course, we'll let you know about any Security Council meetings, but there's nothing set for today or for tomorrow. And with that, are there any further questions for Mr. Gonzalez, please?
I have one more since I have the chance. It's Pamela again. Mr. Gonzalez, are the COVID-19, you mentioned it, but are the actions ability to get vaccines to people and testing impeded by the hurricane, by the typhoon? Thank you.
Well, what is interesting is that right now the government was in full swing in the vaccination campaign, and this is all the credits to proactiveness of the government in making sure that they deploy the teams. And the problem is not access to vaccine. The problem here is the administration. We are very much concerned about the interruption of vaccination campaign in this area, and this was shared by the Department of Health in situ, in the sense that, just an example, the fact that there is no electricity, this is affecting the cold chains for the protection of vaccines, and at the same time the labs and in the evacuation center is quite difficult to ensure the respect of social distancing, the use of masks. So in my meetings with the local authorities, they convey this big concern. The President of the Republic and the Secretary of Health, they were present yesterday in the area. So I think that the government is focusing on putting as a priority the health situation. From our side, we're trying to bring to this humanitarian response plan a strong water and sanitation component, given the linkages with health. But this is a concern. And I would like to, if you allow me, Farhan, I would like to emphasize that we encourage all of you to follow the launch tomorrow of this humanitarian needs and priority plan, and we need the support from media in a full distribution and the way that you can follow with donors. We certainly need a strong support for this humanitarian program. Thank you.
Thank you, and certainly I hope you get strong support for that event tomorrow, and I encourage all the press here to follow that. And with that, I see no further questions, so I'd like to thank our guest, Gustavo Gonzalez. Thanks very much for your extremely informative briefing and for the video presentations you've been making. Thanks. I'd also like to
Thank you.
Thanks. I'd also like to issue a correction to what I just said a little bit earlier about the tours. I'm informed that UN tours have been temporarily suspended due to COVID-19. So those for those who have signed up for tours following that suspension, they will be fully refunded, and we'll restart those tours when we can. And with that, I will turn over the floor to the spokesperson